Hey everybody, how are you doing? We are still on the I Ams of Jesus, and it's the light of the world. Are you in darkness, stumbling, or confused? He is the light of the world. And we talked about the woman caught in the act of adultery and how Jesus was so kind and tender to her and didn't accuse her of what she was doing. Obviously she was set up. What a sad situation. But Jesus truly cared for her, and he said, I don't condemn you either, but go and sin no more. So just such an encouraging word where he said to her, says to us, if you follow me, you'll not walk in darkness. Father, we do pray that you bless this study. We just want to see you, Lord. We just want to have more light in our lives. In Jesus' precious name, amen. Okay, we talked about Matthew 25, the virgins, 5 wise, 5 foolish. And a great illustration I heard, obviously not a true story, I'm sure, but there was a train crossing guard that was charged with the death of 4 teenagers. And they brought him into court and they asked him all the questions, all the right questions. Were you standing at your post? Yes. Did you have your uniform on? Yes. Were you there on time? Yes. Were you waving your lamp? Yes, he says. And the judge just said, case dismissed. I can't find any reason why you are charged with their death. And sadly, as the man walked away, he said, he forgot to ask me if I had my lamp turned on. Wow. Forgot to ask me if I had my lamp turned on. We can be at all the right places, do all the right things, have our uniform on, but if our light is not turned on, it does absolutely nothing. And again, an unattended fire will soon become a pile of ashes. How we need to keep our fire burning, sit at the Lord's feet, read your word, pray, be in fellowship. Those things keep your fire burning. You just want to be ready, instant, in season and out. I always just talk about a neighbor that we had, a young couple that was living together, and it was one of those things where, oh boy, just a bad example, stay away from my children. And I remember there was a time when Jeremy didn't want to go to church. He wanted to hang out with this guy because he thought he was cool. And I was like, I just wanted to threaten him, stay away from my kids. But as we got to know them, my heart had them over for dinner. I felt like the Lord, I found out he loved Mexican food, and I felt like the Lord said, invite him over for dinner. And I'm thinking, that couldn't be the Lord. No, I don't want to do that. But the Lord just impresses on your heart. And I remember having them over for dinner, and oh my goodness, just sitting down with them across the table, hearing their story. My heart, the Grinch's heart grew 2 sizes that day. I felt like there was just some ministry. There's a reason why this guy is just the way he is, Anyway, but as time went on, he actually knocked at our door one time, and he said, Lloyd, I've got to talk to you. He was visibly shaken, and he said, I just want you to let you know I'm a backslidden pastor's kid. I know all about the Bible and all about Christianity. He says, but my father was one thing in the pulpit and another thing at home. And I said I would never, ever want to step foot in a church again, open my Bible again, or anything to do with God. Heartbreaking. And he says, and then I see you guys, Jeremy, you have a great dad. He comes home, plays basketball with you every night. It was just one of those things where I would have missed. He got a little sermon from Darren, his hero. He got a little sermon that his dad is great. I would have missed that had I not shined my light, had I not been willing to shine my light. And wow, Lloyd ended up marrying them. He cried the whole time. I mean, what a story, this guy. Pray that he's walking with the Lord. But God just took care of that. You just never know where God will send you when you shine your light. Who will stumble because your light isn't on? Who's following you because your light is on? How we need to remember people are watching us. And again, the show Survivor, what's the first thing they do? You got to get fire, then water, but you got to have fire. Fire keeps you alive. You can't live without fire. You can't survive without fire. And back in the prairie days, again, fire cleans, warms, heals, disinfects. If you didn't have fire, you didn't have life. In fact, fire represented life. So, so, so important. In forest fires, I'll tell you what's interesting. Some certain seeds only can pop open and germinate when there's a fire, intense heat. So you know what, next time you're in very intense heat, maybe some seeds are popping open. Maybe you're going to be fruitful where you wouldn't be fruitful before. And I love the whole concept of Passover. The Jewish people just have it right. They get out, the women get all the leaven, go around the house, get out all the leaven. And why is that? You know, why do they clean their house just before Passover? I think it's just very interesting. Jesus can't sit at your table and have fellowship with you. God hates sin. He won't sit at a table where there's sin. And you know what? Don't we want to have fellowship with God? Sin cuts us off from fellowship with God, okay? He can't stand sin. So get out the leaven and he will sit at your table and have fellowship with you. I love that. Gold. How is gold purified? Well, it's heated so hot, so intense, so hot. And then all the junk rises to the top. And then the goldsmith skims off all that junk. And you know how when he knows that the gold is done, the gold is pure, it's ready to be shaped and molded, where he can see his reflection when he can see his face in the surface of the gold, when he can see himself. And you know, when God looks at us, does he still see a lot of us, or does he see himself? And that's the goal. When people look at us, we want them to see Jesus. We want to see Jesus when we look in the mirror, right? Because we have nothing of ourselves. Fire can be so good. Again, an unattended fire will soon become a pile of ashes. I always think of the story Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These three amazing men who did not bow, did not bend the knee, said, we are not going to worship this silly hunk of gold. I don't care what you do to us. And of course, the king was so mad. They threw him into the fire. And don't you know, he's looking in and they're saying, oh my word, something very strange is happening. First of all, they're not burned up. Nothing is being singed. They're totally fine. But there's a fourth man in the fire. Oh, the only thing they did lose in the fire was their chains, their bands. So sometimes when we go in the fire, Jesus will show up, and he does show up. And we lose our bondage. We lose our bands. I love that. The things that bind us up. Fire can be really good. Again, keeping that fire burning. And I've read this in some of my other studies, but Luke 24, my favorite chapter. Now behold, two of them were traveling the same day to a village called Emmaus, Luke 24, verse 13, 7 miles from Jerusalem. And they talked together of all these things which had happened. So it was that while they conversed and reasoned, that Jesus himself drew near and went with them. But their eyes were restrained so that they did not know him. Isn't that just like us? And he said to them, what kind of conversation is this that you have with one another, and you're walking and are sad? Then the one whose name was Cleophas answered and said to him, are you the only stranger in Jerusalem, and have you not known the things which have happened here these days? Like, in other words, are you clueless? Do you not see what's happening on the news? Like, it's all over town about Jesus. And he said to them, what things? Love how he plays innocent. And they said to him, the things concerning Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how the chief priests and our rulers delivered him to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we were hoping that it was he who was going to redeem Israel. But our hopes are pretty much dashed. Indeed, besides all this, today's the third day since all these things happened. Yes, and certain women of our company who arrived at the tomb early astonished us. When they did not find his body, they came saying that they had also seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Okay, you'd think that they'd go, something's happening. This might be good. Angel says he's alive. Okay. It's verse 24. And certain of those who were with us today went to the tomb, found that it was just as the women said. Imagine that. Because women's words back then were not credible. But him they did not see. Then he said to them, O foolish ones, and slow of heart, to believe in all of the prophets, the things that the prophets have spoken. Ought not the Christ to have suffered these things and to enter into his glory? Oh, and beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded to them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. Then they drew near to the village where they were going, and he indicated that he would have gone further. Now, I would have loved to have been in that Bible study. That would have been amazing. But they constrained him, saying, "Oh no, stay with us. It's toward evening. The day is far spent." And he went in to stay with them. Now it came to pass that as he sat by the table with them, that he took the bread, blessed it, broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened. I love this process. There's so much in here. God takes us, and be so thankful he does. Why would he even want us? But he takes us, then he blesses us, okay? He does bless us. He really, really does bless us. And that always comes before the breaking. He never breaks us just to break us, to be mean, or do us harm. He blesses us, then he breaks us and gives it and passes it out to others. Do you love that process? He takes you, he blesses you, breaks you, and passes it out to others. Love, love, love that. Then their eyes were opened and they knew him, and he vanished from their sight. And they said to one another, this is so cool, "Did not our heart burn within us while he talked with us on the road and while he opened the scriptures to us?" Oh goodness, holy heartburn. Don't we want that? You know, your heart is cold. Don't beat yourself up. In fact, the more you try to love God, the more you'll be bitter and get cold. Just look up and say, "Jesus, I just need to spend time with you. Tend my fire." When you gaze up into him, when you look at the cross, when you see what he did for you, when you study his word, your heart will burn. Your heart will burn. Did not our heart burn within us while he talked with us on the road and opened the scriptures to us? Oh, do I love that. Revelation 3 just talks about, be you either hot or cold. I wish that you were hot or cold. Don't we all love just ice cold drinks in the summer, or hot coffee or tea in the winter? We don't like lukewarm stuff. It's like, ew, you spit it out of your mouth. So you know, what are you today? Be either cold. If you're not going to follow God, I want you to follow God, but be either cold or hot. If you're lukewarm, I will spit you out of my mouth. He says, come back. Come to your first love. Remember when you loved Jesus. If you've backslidden, if you can think of a time when you were closer with the Lord than today, then you're backslidden. But I'll tell you what, Jesus is just a prayer away. Just look to him. Spurgeon said, I just looked up and I was saved. I just looked to him and was saved. Saved by his good looks. He just looked up. Peter, I love how when he was sinking in the water, just looked up to Jesus and cried out, and Jesus saved him. So Revelation 3, be you either hot or cold. You know, you've left your first love. Jesus just talks about, I see all your works. I see all the stuff you're doing. And works are great. Again, works, true work should come from your ministry is an overflow of your relationship with God. Okay, your ministry is an overflow of your relationship with God. Your fruit is because you've been abiding with Jesus. We never can produce anything on our own. Apart from Jesus, we can do nothing. But Jesus says, come back to your first love. I just want to sit with you. I don't really want your works. I want you to sit with me. I want your fellowship. Just like our kids, you know, we appreciate all the little things they do for us or maybe buy for us at Christmas, but we just want to spend time with our children. That's what we want. Hopefully, you know, wives and husbands, you know, if the husband says, honey, I can't come home, she says, oh, that's okay, just send money, send gifts. No, she would want him home. Hopefully you'd want your husband more than the gifts, and we want the Lord more than his gifts. But I love the fact that he does bless us with so many things. We are so blessed. He gives us so many things. We have everything we need. Only Christians can say that. There's a lot of needs in the world right now. A lot of needs, mentally, physically, spiritually, you name it. There's a lot of needs out there. Our country is imploding right before our eyes, but you know what? It's getting so bad, it's got to get better. How we need to be salt and light. But oh, does he bless us. But when we have Jesus, we have everything. And Spurgeon said, get on fire and people will come out to watch you burn. I love that. Maybe I'll save this for next time, but I'll just give you a little hint of this little story. Spurgeon's wife, and he was always traveling or he was always out, and she was often alone at night and kind of lonely. And she was just kind of sad, kind of a little bit depressed. And the lady that was with her, you know, threw a log on the fire just to keep it going. It was a cold winter night. And all of a sudden, they hear this like noise or this singing, and they're thinking, where on, does somebody have the radio on? Is there, what's going on? And the Lord just kind of showed her that log in the fire. It's coming from there. You know, that log that had maybe just been sitting there, had a song in his heart, but when it was thrown into the fire released this interesting sound of music from this log. And you know what? Sometimes the fire will bring out songs in our heart. Sometimes our sorrow will bring out a song, because we just have that fellowship with the Lord. He was acquainted with grief, a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. Read Isaiah 53, what he did for you, what he did, went to the cross for you. You know, he was burned up, so to speak. Jesus didn't hold anything back. Jesus went in the fire, so you and I don't have to. He is just so precious. So just get on fire for God, and people will come out to watch you burn. You know, let your sorrow bring out a song in your life. And we will continue with this next time. God bless you, ladies.